Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. PPI today. Where's the music? You know what? I'm having problems with my audio lately where, like, it doesn't come through correctly. Hold on, there we go. There we go. It'll like become delayed and then I have to restart Voice Meter Banana. Anyways, PPI. I don't know. I don't want to overthink it. I kind of think that you like just buy all the things with everybody else, but we'll see. Really quickly here, coming at the charts. Yesterday in the treasuries was a huge day. Okay, it wasn't like the biggest, but it was like the biggest since the collapse over the summer of Silicon Valley Bank. So wild day. Maybe usually after a big day like that we do give a little bit of it back, but we'll see. Here you can kind of see it. We are a little bit to the downside. They tried to keep the rally going overnight, but they just weren't able to do so. S&P 500 though up big. I want to take note here when you kind of look at like the spreads with NQ and RTY, you can see that RTY was a big outperformer yesterday. Coming over to oil. Oil took a big jump and came all the way back. Gold and silver, really liking what they're seeing here. Man, silver is like really took off. Kappa's doing okay. So we are kind of getting some signs that maybe things in China are going to stabilize. The dollar took a big hit, but the one that I'm really wondering about is Bitcoin. Bitcoin just really took it on the nose yesterday. Didn't participate with everything else, which is a little odd, but I think that maybe some whales decided to take profit on this little rally that they've been having lately. Okay, so we have the PPI numbers upcoming. US core PPI, month over month, we're looking for a reading of spot 3. I anticipate that we will get a reading of spot 3. Or rather, I think the consensus estimate will be correct. Remember, yesterday it was they expected core CPI to be spot 3, and we got spot 2. So I don't think that things will be quite that for producers, but let's see. I don't know if it's spot 2. Will they like rally hard again? I don't know. I kind of seen some situations where I thought that the PPI didn't matter and it really took off. So let's be vigilant. And they're setting up. And the liquidity has really pulled too, so. All right, and oh, we got retail sales too. Retail sales was not as bad as expected, negative spot 1 versus an expected negative spot 3. Core PPI month over month was 0 versus the expectation of spot 3. Oh, well, we actually can work with that. That's a tough one. that so news has been no-brainer trade as of late. I think this one, I think we need the big brain, because while PPI was a lot better than expected, or a lot less than expected, retail sales was better than expected. We got a positive spot one when we were expecting a negative spot one. So that's why they're probably selling here. I do kind of think that retail sales matters a little bit more. So if we just go back to before this news event was released, trying to analyze what yesterday meant, basically, I think you try to not overthink it and just buy all of the things like everybody else. And you buy them until either A, the Federal Reserve panics and starts raising rates again or getting aggressive again, or B, the market realizes that we're heading into a recession, right? And now that we got that PPI and that retail sales, what does that which of those scenarios do you think the retail sales points to? I'd say scenario A. You buy all of the things until the Federal Reserve starts to get concerned again and becomes hawkish, right? Retail sales better than expected. You can't have really good retail sales for too long before you're going to start seeing core inflation start to tick up again and all of these sorts of things. So the impact of that might be temporary. I don't think that this is like sell all the things all day sort of a thing. I think that it gives us a market that will be a little bit volatile in both ways here, probably. Okay, well, it looks like one of my Ninja Trader charts have crashed. Well, my point was that there hasn't been a bad news report in a long time. Yeah, I think that's probably accurate. Like a news report that really didn't go the way the market wanted. Which, if I can be frank, is a little suspicious, don't you think? Well, I'm trying to think about how this, if we're going to the downside, how this plays out. I think between 16 and 12 is kind of like the retracement area where like we thought maybe they might come back but it really didn't. It was just extremely positive yesterday. Let me show you over here. Right. Basically, that took us right to the single prints. So it's probably going to be a little bit of a battle here, and we just kind of have to watch and see what it does. Okay, good. I am getting my ZN chart is responding again, so I don't have to restart NinjaTrader. Yesterday was sure. Well, let's not say unexpected, but like they definitely exceeded expected volatility. Realized volatility was larger than implied volatility. So it does kind of set the market up, I think. This is going to be a little weird to see how this plays out, because I think that a lot of the flows going into the year end, particularly when we're talking about equities, are long. But what happened yesterday was a lot of guys that were like long, short, and other kind of hedge funds got caught with their pants down. Apparently, there was an insane amount of call activity in some of the Russell indexes. So there was a Russell ETF, I forget what it's called, but they just bought massive amounts of calls because they couldn't, you know, they were too under leveraged and whatnot on those small caps. So what does that mean for the anticipated long flows going into the year end? Because that could very quickly turn into a head fake sort of a situation. Like I said, this was retail. This was one retail sales. The possibility the retail sales turn down and that we go, oh, we're going into recession, right? And we going into a recession is not necessarily a good thing, right? Like, yeah, cool, easy money, that's good, but earnings bad, that's bad, and you should see stocks come back. And a lot of confusing and kind of like head fake sort of behavior if we go into that environment, right? So, well, overall, I would say that the market did very much react to that economic news. It was overall to the downside, although I think there's still a case to be made on up because of the PPI. They've kind of digging a hole here at 16. Oh, I should also add that the net volume was very much to the sell side in the treasuries by about 15,000. So this makes really hard trading for me. I might be able to scalp like one tickers. So it's right back to 4.5. So remember, 4.5 was where I was like, oh, I could have even sold 4.5. How far down can they go here? I don't know. There is a large order at 16 that it looks like is shoving. I don't feel very confident in taking a live trade on it, so I will try and front run the big order right here. Somebody took it. This is going to get interesting, but I'm anticipating that what happens is that we get a little bit stuck here. And I should add that it shouldn't be any surprise that it's happening at 16, right? Man, I got a little hitch in the audio there. I'm kind of wondering if my audio interface is just going. Come on. There we go. There we go. I think that one was a little bit too risky for, you know, what I was doing and everything, but I worked it out. And I'm gonna let this one ride just a little bit. I don't think that we're gonna come all the way back up, but I do think that there could be a little bit more upside here because they sold into a pretty big order and got filled, and now it's like rotating back around it. So you could see rotation back and forth here. Well, if you're gonna give me another opportunity to do it, I'll take it. But I also think that you might have like a VWAP bounce sort of a thing happen. It's a little slippery though. So we are definitely getting evidence now after that large order of being in a liquidity hole, aren't we? Now, this is interesting. Am I reading the numbers correctly? Because Zero Hedge headline is retail sales declined as student debt payments resumed in October. Is more good news on its way, according to the Bank of America, who have been mysteriously all-knowing for months. No, the way that they predict that retail sales is really, really effective. That's what it's all about. This morning's U.S. retail sales print will be better than expected. Oh, I see. They posted this before the retail sales. After last month's big upside surprise, consensus was for a 0.3% drop, but the actual print came in better than expected, declining just 0.1% month over month. And that was the first decline in 7 months. Okay, so they were expecting a decline, but it was only a slight decline. Yada, yada, yada. Both headline and core retail sales year-over-year slowed in October. Furniture, motor vehicles, miscellaneous stores saw the biggest month-over-month declines. Retail sales control group, which excludes food services, automobile dealers, building materials, and gasoline stations, and is used for GDP calculations, rose spot 2% month over month in October. As a reminder, last month's big jump was seasonally adjusted. Unadjusted sales dropped 5% month over month in October. Sales NFSA rose 2.3% month over month. Not exactly great news everyone was expecting, but still a beat. Well, I added another contract on there, and they went right through me, didn't they? So, probably I should be puking it here. Let's be degenerate and see if we can. How much am I willing to add here? Oh, I don't know. It sure did come down awfully quickly, didn't it? I'm not sure what you mean by can you have a liquidity hole in treasuries if they are highly positively correlated with indexes? You can get a liquidity hole in any product. But let's say that we have a liquidity hole and there is a strong correlation and that correlated asset moves, then yeah, that could be something that pulls it out of the liquidity hole. But when you see that, what you'll probably see happen is a lot of volume will trade through it. Or are you asking is when the correlation between treasuries and equities are positive, can you get the liquidity hole? But that's still true, yes. I mean, the liquidity hole will happen anytime that the market makers decide that they don't want to market make it there. You've got breakfast going for it. Thanks. A little late for that, Tiger. Yeah, okay, now I'm definitely... So, I'll give it another little step, but it does look like we're going to be puking this little scalp. I think that the original one was okay, but I pushed it a little bit too much, didn't I? Because with them breaking into 12.5, that kind of makes the picture a lot more interesting, doesn't it? Like the longer term picture. Because immediately, just as it's like, oh, buy all of the things, you know, we get this move that really brings that into question. I suppose that means that if I wanted to buy, that they're giving me a good opportunity. Well, let's come over to Twitter, see if there's anything interesting on Twitter here. There's a decent amount of selling on that one, man. Okay, I think if I'm gonna do this, I gotta commit myself to it. So, Oh man, Lucas. You know, I don't remember. Okay, so Lucas says, I don't know if I'd be too happy doing business with Sierra Charts after what they posted. Aren't you already with them? I mean, if you're already with them and you like them and you're in the United States and you don't trade Eurex, I don't know if it's a huge deal, but let me explain what he's talking about. So there's been this thread on the Sierra Charts forum of people asking for support for the Eurex exchange. Basically, if you're in Europe, you want to trade like DAX and things like that, fund, then you can't really do it with Sierra Charts data. I think that you can do it with Rhythmic, and they support it to some extent, but I don't know what the details of that are. But anyways, they've been requesting it in this thread, and yesterday, the Sierra Charts Engineering basically posted, like, now we're not going to do it. It's like too much work to comply with all of Europe's stupid standards, and the world is going to end soon anyways, and I don't want to spend the last moments of my life, you know, working on that, basically. It was just the most bizarre. Here, let me come back and, like, where is it? Let me come back and read the actual post so that I'm, like, completely genuine about what they're saying, because obviously, you know, I support a different platform. So, you know, I want to try and be as fair as I can here. There are definitely no plans to be supporting Eurex. The world is changing, and that should be obvious to us all, and we are not going to be investing any time in this under no circumstance. Soon we are all going to be facing much worse problems. Kinetic war, and then they link to the Wikipedia article about kinetic military action. Kinetic war, famine, and energy shortages, which are all interrelated. There should not be denial of these facts. These things are coming to us all. We are not going to be wasting the last days of our lives as we know them. Hopefully we survive messing around with so much complexity and all the bureaucracy with this type of trading functionality, referring to MIFID, which is kind of the regulatory rules for data platforms in Europe. Okay, we are at the precipice of a worldwide disaster. Anyone who is in denial of this is hiding from the truth. There is no way what is going on in the world is not going to result in shortages of food and energy and an expansion of the kinetic war. The basic point is we must focus our efforts on what helps us truly and work towards a world of freedom and independence from those trying to kill us and divide us as a humanity from behind the scenes. And we have long talked about our own exchange, and that effort is going on in the background. It is not going to be like a Eurex futures exchange, no, but it has other purposes. This is where our focus is on our own development efforts and projects which have so much more potential. Just like, okay, if you have other projects and you want to spend your time doing that and you don't want to support Eurex, like, okay, fine. But like, why all of the crazy comments about like that the world is going to end and war is going to expand and all of this stuff? Like, what? What the heck? But this isn't the first time. I wish I could remember what the circumstance was, but I remember people posting something from Sierra Charts forum before that I thought was a little bit like, what? What is this guy going on about? But it seems to me that the engineer for Sierra Charts is some guy that probably lives in like Wyoming and is like super duper right wing and has bought into that the elites are creating famine and war and that, you know, to reduce the population or something like that. Like, yeah, like a full doomsday prepper. Sierra support has always kind of been quirky, but that's definitely over the edge now. I just don't. What's the story about the unusual whales guy? That sounds interesting. Oh, did we pick up our other contract? Okay. Yeah, we can't deal with Eurex and the Illuminati at the same time. like when I saw so I asked around about it a little bit to see if I could get like insight from other people, and they didn't really have anything. Everybody was just like, yeah, that's a really like somebody's got a screw loose or something. Like, that's just a really bizarre thing to say. I think it's weird. I'm not gonna say that alone would make me want, you know, stay away from the Sierra Charts platform. I'm sure that the platform continues to work the way that it's worked, and that people that are happy with it will continue to be happy with it. But this is just kind of what I've always been saying, that I see a couple of little things with Sierra Charts that says to me that, you know, they're not always going to be at the forefront of what you want. That, you know, if there's going to be some cool new innovation in the industry, I think that Sierra Charts will be a little bit behind. Basically talking about all the trading politicians do and how unfair it is that they trade on insider information. Well, I don't know, man. Oh, did it take both of them? I thought that I still had a contract. No, that was wrong. I screwed that up. I didn't want to get out. Here, I'll take another one and do it again to do what I originally wanted, okay? Well, Octavius. It can't even be Jigsaw. Well, yeah. I guess one of the things is that, like, to really understand why they would not want to go through that effort to support Eurex, I think I would have to talk to, like, the guys at Rhythmic, right? Rhythmic supports it, so, like, must be possible. If he played the market, he would lose it betting on those views. Well, I tell you what, trading your politics, your political ideology can definitely be can definitely harm you, let's say. But it's also kind of a necessary part of trading as well. At least in our day and age, being able to be completely detached from your opinion of the market and only trade the flow is a little difficult because of the competition with the robots. And so I think that to some extent you kind of have to be able to use your view of the world to be able to predict what's going to happen, right? And if you have a model of the world that's like very incorrect, then yeah, you will have trouble trading, right? But that's where I think it's kind of like you've got to realize that you might not like the president and you might not like a lot of policies that are going on, but there's a lot of other components to the economy, and an economy can be successful regardless of who the president is. I've seen a lot of people basically betting against the economy here with Biden in, and over the past year it hasn't been too great, I will admit, but I don't think that that's the right call in the long term here. Because like if this does turn into a recession, I think it'd be a recession that would turn around very quickly. Like I don't think that that's one where it would really make sense to like sell and then try and buy the bottom. I think that you just stay in and invest even more at the bottom if that's what's going to happen. So yeah, it's especially the cynicism, right? Because the cynicism is kind of like, pessimism on human nature. Basically saying, well, yeah, people will always do the stupid thing, right? And I think that kind of the thing that can kind of screw people up when they become cynics is that they kind of start to buy into it. Like they go, well, everybody else is doing it and it works for them, so I guess I should do it too, right? And when you try and do it, you'll always end up doing something super stupid. But I personally don't feel that what politicians do is necessarily unfair. This has kind of always been the nuance in this issue that I find very, very difficult to convey to people. I don't think that members of Congress should be able to trade on stocks because it's a conflict of interest. That's my thing. It's a conflict of interest, then they shouldn't be doing it. They should be forced to have all of their assets in a blind trust and have a financial advisor manage it. That basically by doing like an index fund, target fund sort of a thing, right? And that should be it. They shouldn't be doing the trading. They shouldn't be doing the business deals. They shouldn't be doing the book deals and all of this sort of stuff, right? It should literally be like, if you're in Congress, if you go into Congress, your congressional salary is your income for the rest of your life, is what I think. Now, maybe we should increase congressional salary in order to do that, right? That's the first thing. So some of these guys, they need to like have homes in both places and things. Okay, let's just give them all $1 million a year. Like, honestly, give them $1 million a year, but then they can't have any other income. They can't have book deals. They can't have nothing. And even after they leave, they can't go and pick up a book, do a book afterwards, unless it's, well, let's say they can write books, but it can only be published through the Library of Congress. Okay. Because it's a conflict of interest. Okay. But they're not trading on insider information. They're trading on public information. They're trading on public information that they have better access to than you. And you'd say, that's unfair. I would say, that's what the market is, man. The market is a place where we all come together and trade on the informational content that we have. And there's a lot of flow that is not informational, but that there is flow that is informational. And we all have different information. And it's not necessarily unfair that one person has a piece of information that you don't. This kind of idea that we can like level the playing field so that everybody has the same opportunity to be able to find informational content and trade on it is really, when you think about it, kind of insane. Like, that's just not how it works. And frankly, doing that kind of like undermines the market to some extent, because then you're basically saying, oh, the people that have the information, they can't trade on it, and then it won't be reflected in the market. That it takes so much to explain something should be common sense is a statement for the low. Well, I don't think that it's that people are stupid. It's that they have been essentially propagandized. I guess maybe propagandized isn't the correct word, but they've all been given this model of how the markets and how Congress and how everything else is supposed to work that is really not reality and is not practical, right? No, yeah. So I'm saying I don't think that Congress is trading on inside information. They're trading on public information. It's public information that they have better access to. And that's the way that the market works. So the reason why there's a problem with trading on inside information is again, why is it a problem? Yeah, so let me back up. What I take issue with is not that they should or shouldn't be able to trade stocks. I think they should not be able to trade stocks. What I take issue with is why people think it's wrong. Most people think it's wrong because it's unfair. I say that's the way that the market works. That you kind of have to have that for a market to work. Yeah, different people have different information, and then you bring it all together and you bring it to the market. And if everybody all had the exact same access to the same information, like the market wouldn't work, frankly. It would just be a mess. It wouldn't accomplish the thing that we need it to accomplish. Like the market needs to be a place where people with new informational content can come into the market and make money from it. Right? So it's not wrong that it's unfair. It's wrong because it is a conflict of interest. Just like insider trading, if you know what a company's earnings are going to be or things, that's a conflict of interest. And that's also why we should not have insider trading, but not because it's unfair. Okay. The market is not fair and never will be. And the more that you try and inject your ideal version of a fair market, the more that you're likely to just screw things up. Right? Ain't this the same way if you worked? I'm not sure what you mean, but if you work in the financial sector, the company that I worked for, all of your trading activity was severely restricted, again, because of concerns about conflicts of interest. Well, this second attempt for this trade ain't working very well. I think that what I need to do if I really want to continue playing this is to split the difference here. So when you work for Goldman Sachs, they are the most strict. Like, they are well above and beyond what is actually legally required of them. It's really quite crazy. So you cannot day trade, essentially. So if you take a position, you have to hold it for at least a month, I believe. I think that all positions have to be held for 4 weeks unless you lose 20% on the position. Then they let you take it out. And you cannot purchase stocks in any company that Goldman has worked with in the past like a year or two, which by the way is like basically everybody. Right? So like the number of stocks that you can actually trade in are like really, really low. How would they know? Well, because you're only allowed to trade in an approved account. So basically they give you an account at Fidelity and you can do your stuff in that Fidelity account, but you're not supposed to have accounts outside of that. You're not allowed to have a futures trading account. Things like that. So you literally, they tell you can't day trade. They basically, they said like it would be unfair to let you guys day trade, so we're not going to do it. There would just be too much question. Well, if you had another account, how would they know? Maybe they wouldn't. You might be right. But there have been some prominent situations where people did stuff like that and they got caught. So I wouldn't say that they wouldn't find out, but you might get away with it. But you know what, guy? Most of the kind of people that work for a firm like Goldman Sachs would not do that sort of a thing. Like Goldman Sachs, do they call it a cult? Okay, I don't like the word cult, but it has a strong culture. They have a strong culture, and integrity is at the very top of that corporate work culture. And the people that work there genuinely believe it. And there have been some prominent situations where people were dishonest and the firm got hit for it. That's why it's been such a big deal, because Goldman put so much effort into teaching their employees not to do this shit, right? That's kind of like this big red warning sign to people that you can't solve these problems just by telling everybody to be nice, you know? Trying to get rehired. Yeah, I don't think that getting rehired by them would make a whole lot of sense anymore. So, so a couple of months ago, this was actually really weird now that I think back on it. Okay, so somebody from their recruiting department reached out to me and said, "Hey, there's this job," and it was for the it was for Ames, which I think was called Ames. Basically, what they do is they analyze different funds, hedge funds and things like that, and try to find things that will predict which hedge funds will be successful that year and which ones won't, so that they can tell their private clients which ones to invest in, essentially. So that was the group. And I did an interview with them where you go through and you do the coding and all of this stuff. I wouldn't say that I did amazing with the coding because I had practiced everything to do it in like Python, and then they wanted me to do it in Java. And it was like, well, I did Java a really long time ago, so I should be able to stumble through this, but it wasn't as great. Okay. But I did well, and they wanted to go further. Okay. They wanted to set up another interview. And then as soon as that happened, there was a hiring freeze. There was the hiring freeze like at the beginning of the year. So they said, we'll come back to this one. And I bet you that if I went into their like hiring system, that application would probably still show as open and like me as a possible candidate on it. So I don't know what's with that. But anyways, I was going through that process of getting hired by them, right? And then I got this new job that I have as a site reliability engineer. And I don't think that Goldman would pay me as much as they pay me to be a site reliability engineer. Not for that position that I was running for, at least. because that position that I was running for was a little bit more of a quant sort of a thing. I don't have as much experience, so I don't think that I would be able to get the same pay that I get as an SRE. So that I probably spent too much time telling that story, but the point of the story is I think it's extremely unlikely that a Goldman or anybody else would hire me right now, because they'd have to pull me away from my SRE job, which I'm really enjoying. But maybe somebody at some point wants me to trade for them or something. I don't know. This is just not working. I need to stop this. This is a little sim trade. The other one kind of worked, and then that one kind of took. So maybe that's just the loss that I should have always had. It makes me wonder if maybe there's further downside. Wait, where was the... Oh, okay, yeah, we've got a huge area that we could potentially retrace. But the next big area that I would probably look at is like 108 even. Do I need a sick YouTube banner? No, thank you. I could use better thumbnails. So I tell you what, because there was another guy that I was talking to about thumbnails, but then when I needed a thumbnail, it wasn't available, and it's been a while since I've made another video. But if anybody went through and looked at videos that were underperforming and said, "Oh, I could make a better banner," and showed me like a concept for a better thumbnail, I would totally pay you to make a better thumbnail. Anyways. Going back, so to the point of trying to get rehired, right? No, it's not that I'm trying to get rehired. It's because I, like most of the people that worked for Goldman, that still work there and worked past tense for them, genuinely believe it. Like, that's the thing, is in integrity, excellence, teamwork. Integrity is number one, and they always said that you go above and beyond. If the required regulatory principle is this, you go higher than that, right? I genuinely believe it. I really liked their principles. I really liked their culture, and people call it a cult, but I kind of feel like that the problem in society is that our cultures are not strong enough. That we, for some reason, we think that because we live in a global society that we should have no culture, which I think is just really stupid. No, I'm not Jewish. I live in Utah. I'm a Mormon. So yeah, I'll always talk them up because I really like them. When I'm looking at the research, I pay much closer attention to what the Goldman analysts are saying. When Jan Hatzius says something, I pay attention because I spoke with that guy. I used to, shoot the bull with him in the foyer sometimes, because at the time, before he became the head of GER, he was the head of GER in Salt Lake City. And so we'd get to talk to him from time to time, and he would tell me, I tell you what, man, and you'd ask him like, okay, so what do you think you see for the S&P 500? And the stuff that he would talk about, it was like so far above my head. I think I would understand it a lot better because I understand flows. But yeah, the guy is just brilliant. He says something, I absolutely pay attention. I like him a lot. I know, it's funny whenever that comes up, with the Jewish thing comes up. I really met a lot. Who? Jan Hatzius is the head of Goldman Investment Research. Yeah. So he's if anybody from Goldman is on television, it's usually him. Essentially. Which I gotta tell you, man, it's one of this. No, he doesn't have a YouTube channel. I think that they do have videos from time to time, and he might show up in them, though. I'd have to go look. It's kind of funny to think about, like, CNBC and all of these other things, because a lot of the people that are at the most prominent leadership positions in the economy are just absolute nerds with, not the best communication skills and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah, Jan is a nerd. but I really respect that guy. Anyways, I was gonna say it's funny whenever this comes up that somebody will mention something about Jewish people, because Goldman is a Jewish name. There are a lot of Jewish people that work for Goldman in New York, and the Jewish people were the nicest ones to me. But I got along with almost everybody at Goldman, especially like the class of people that were like coming in at the same time as me. But the ones that I was like closest friends with were all Jewish. I don't know why that is, but I guess that Mormons and Jewish kind of share those cultural values a little bit more closely. Like, that's where I'm kind of saying I feel like that Christians in this nation have kind of lost their culture a little bit. It's like most Christians think that church is just something that you do on Sunday, and that we aren't like, it's not a part of a society, right? They think that because the religion and the state are supposed to be completely separated, that the religion should have nothing to do with the society and the culture and stuff like that. And I just don't think that's that. So what you end up with is like milk toast culture everywhere, and people don't have strong cultural values, and they kind of fall away from it, right? If you go to a Muslim country, like, you're in a Muslim country. It's there in the architecture, it's there in people praying all over the place, and all of this sort of stuff. Like, they have a strong culture, right? And the Jewish people, they have a strong culture, and Mormon people have a strong culture. And a lot of those values are kind of shared. In fact, I would argue that Mormons probably stole a lot of those values from Jewish people. So some of those values are, you need to have integrity is the most important thing. People aren't going to do business with you if you don't have integrity. Giving back to the community is an important thing. If you have success, it is your obligation to turn around and use that success to help grow your community. Those things like that. Oh, I did see that Russian mob. That all this stuff that's happened since that shooting is just crazy. And like, I don't want to, man, it's really hard because I'll start going down that tunnel. Like, all of the stories about the people that were killed and stuff are really horrifying to me, and it's like super triggering. I think I feel traumatized from it all, and to see like anti-Semitism is just like, oh my gosh. And especially like at universities, there's like, at universities, there's people attacking Jewish students, and like the Jewish students are afraid to go out and stuff. That's just absolutely crazy to me. I can't believe that it's that bad. It's because of them removing our culture out of schools. Oh, dude, I think you have a good point, but how would you put it back in? Because, the big thing I can think of on that point about culture at school is that they don't allow you to pray at school anymore, basically. So I don't know if that's really the thing, I guess I feel that like there's an American culture, and American culture should be taught in school. And for some reason, there's a bunch of people that don't want to have that culture, right? I think that it's because part of American culture is loving America, right? It used to be that Americans loved their country more than people in other countries. And now all of a sudden you got this section of the population that hates their country. And they want that reflected in the schools, right? But I think it just kind of shows a misunderstanding among the modern world. We don't understand what culture is and why it's important. Culture is the shared model that we all are brought up with, that we use for the basis of interactions. And so the culture has it's like a mental health kind of thing, right? Because we're talking about how your brain develops, how you make connections and what connections you make. And these are things that affect which brain cells grow and which brain cells connect to other brain cells, right? That's what culture does. So having a strong and effective culture is very important for the success of your society. And we kind of turned around and said, no, we don't need that. I don't need that. Big mistake. And then what happens is other people come in and that have a strong culture and they try and force that on everybody else instead. And so then you end up adopting a culture that's quite counter to what you want and what your ideals are. Well, there was another tick lower. The treasuries are kind of starting to scare me a little bit. Well, no, I don't think so. I think that this kind of trade here is like is the one where it's gonna reverse eventually. Like it may not like reverse and retrace a ton of it, but there is going to be a point at which, it goes too far and it backs up a little bit and then kind of stabilizes. I think that's what's most likely to happen. And it's likely to happen well above where we were from CPI yesterday. But if I try and bottom feed and try and catch the bottom, I probably will never be able to do it successfully. What exactly is that culture, football, and LGBTQ? Okay, so here are some things that I would say are characteristic of American culture. Okay. Number one is love of country. American people, at least historically, really, really loved being in America and loved everything about America, right? Number two is freedom above all else. And that's really what the United States has been founded on. It's just like this issue with guns. I think that this whole thing about guns is, again, it's a culture issue. Because our ancestors would never even think twice about having gun restrictions like that. There's just absolutely no way. And I think that we kind of need to have an acknowledgement that, yeah, there are some downsides to having those freedoms, okay? And maybe to some extent it makes you less safe. But in the United States, we value the freedom above all else. And so we value the ability to have a weapon and defend yourself, and to have those as a deterrent against any kind of dictator or other country that might want to come in and take advantage. And that makes us more free. And yeah, the cost for that is that your personal safety might be less, right? But that's a core American culture point, right? And then the third one that I would put in there is like, I'm going to call it grit. I'm going to call it grit. American people believe that if you work hard, you can be successful, and that working hard is an important part of life. Like that, even if you've been successful, that doesn't mean that you stop working hard. And that everybody needs a little bit of physical labor in their life, right? That to me would be kind of grit, right? But I think there's another aspect to grit, which is like brazen awesomeness. It's like things that other people would be kind of like, oh, we need to be careful about this, and I don't know if I actually want to do that. Is that fair to everybody? Americans will just go and do the thing the most awesome way that it can possibly be done. Right? This is maybe like the redneck side of American culture, right? Like if we're gonna go and make a military weapon, it's gonna be like the most awesome explosion you've ever seen, sort of a thing. It's always to the extreme. You're gonna have unhealthy food. It's gonna be crazy unhealthy. You know, that's, I think, kind of the part of the grit, and those are the things that I think are like most indicative of American culture. That, yes, I think you're right, have kind of languished in our schools. Not really in our schools anymore. The kind of like, well, we have to be respectful of the people that don't want to say the Pledge of Allegiance, so maybe we just don't even say the Pledge of Allegiance anymore. And yeah, I don't know. It's just like, oh, maybe we should restrict our free speech to be sensitive to this person or this minority. You know, it's just, yeah. But I would say that it's in part because a large portion of the population has decided that culture doesn't matter. They've decided that culture doesn't matter in a global world. That because of globalism, that like what my local culture is doesn't matter. That in fact maybe it hurts you on a global stage. And what I'm saying is, like, culture is that base layer in your mind. This is the model that we use as the basis for all social interactions. And so it has a great deal about how you think and how you approach problems. And when you don't have a strong culture, you are basically leaving yourselves at the mercy of people that do. And they will force their way of thinking on you, and you may not like what that is. Work hard shields you from your own stupidity? I mean, the issue these days is that a lot of people say that it's not worth working hard because you don't actually get rewarded for it, but they're not necessarily wrong, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't work hard, right? What you should do is you should work hard, and part of that working hard will be working hard to fix the issues that are preventing us from getting the just rewards from our labor. Right? Excellence is its own reward. Everybody seems like this is the thing that bothers me the most. Bothers me the most about Gen Z and the attitudes that I see among Gen Z. So they say, it's not worth working hard. It's not worth striving for excellence because you don't get rewarded for excellence. And my approach is, excellence is its own reward. You can't say, I will turn on the awesome switch when it's worth it. That I'm just going to be mediocre and lazy and everything, and then maybe someday we'll get to a point where I actually care and it's worth it, and then I'll flip the switch on and show you how awesome I am. Doesn't work like that. Awesome is a skill. It's something that you have to practice every day. You want to do something excellent, it's hard. It requires a great deal of discipline and attention to detail. And every place where you cut corners is just making it that much more difficult for you to practice excellence in the future. And so if you're lazy now, what's going to happen is when we get to the point where it's go time for you, you're still going to be lazy and you're going to miss the opportunity. Yeah, whatever you don't have, you always blame it on somebody else. Yeah, there you go. But I say that part of the value of excellence, this going back to Mike Goldman Sachs days, this because their values are excellence, integrity, excellence, and teamwork, right? Excellence means that you strive to do your best regardless of the situation and regardless of what's in it for you. Full scale or no scale, yeah. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. Well, S&P 500 so far seems to be a little slow compared to what I thought maybe it would be. But they got a really good rally here. So maybe... There's actually a lot of volume behind that too. I kind of agree. Well, but I'm not trying to convince you that working hard that you'll be justly rewarded for working hard. I'm saying you should work hard anyways, right? Because honestly, what kind of person do you want to be, right? Do you want to be somebody that's just kind of floating through life and is kind of lazy and just goes wherever the wind takes you? Because that's what I feel Gen Z is turning into. There's no... Well, it's really weird to me what Gen Z decides to put their energy into. It's like working hard and becoming your best self. I'll turn it on when the United States economy is set up the way that I think it should be, right? But then when it's terrorists, then they go full hog. What the hell? Come on, guys. It's just crazy to me. Or they put all of the effort into the social media, right? They put all this effort into this fake world, this fake image that you project out to the world that doesn't actually exist, and you put absolutely no effort into the real person. I want to be the opposite, right? I don't care what people think. I only do this because of the community that it creates. I don't do it because I want... I think I'm prone to, responding well to accolades and people thinking highly of you and things like that. But I am very intentional about not making that a driver behind my actions. I always do what I think is has the most integrity and is the most excellent, and I don't care what people think of it. And if everybody on the outside thinks that I'm an absolute loser, but I know that I'm being successful in accomplishing the things that I want to accomplish, all the better. The stealth, the sleeper build. I'm all about the sleeper build. That's what it is. I've been working since I was 13. There are certain aspects of human life you can't learn if you don't work hard. And if you don't learn those, they'll hit you and you won't know what's happening. There you go. There you go. Oh man, how do you feel about Stoicism? I had strong opinions on Stoicism and I don't remember what they were. My recollection was that Stoicism has some really useful and beneficial ideas, but that ultimately they were wrong. But I don't remember what it was that they were ultimately wrong about. They run for the hills on a terrorist attack. They can't run, yeah. this whole thing with Hamas is really, I mean, I think that I understand a lot of why it is happening and so forth, but at the same time, it's so hard to wrap your head around that they would support Hamas, because you know that if anything like that happened in the United States, that these kids would be absolutely traumatized for life. You know, like they would never get over it. Their fear of there being a terrorist attack again. Yeah. Of course, they would probably turn it into this is why we shouldn't have guns. And then that's like, yeah, you think that's going to stop terrorists? Okay. The crazy thing is that I think it's going to happen to them. I mean, it kind of happened to us as millennials. I think we kind of moved past it. In fact, sometimes I feel like we got over it a little bit too well. But Gen Z won't. They'll just be absolutely terrified. So how can they support terrorists abroad when if it was happening over here, you know that they would be scared out of their minds? Have you ever tried trading futures products strictly on time and sells? So, I mean, are you talking about like I take my consolidated tape and I trade just off of that? Or are you saying trading it just off of the DOM? Because I mostly just watch the DOM. I have a lot of charts on over here, but that's just because it's easier for me to keep track of correlated instruments and where money is coming to and from with charts. That's mainly why I have charts. Mostly use the DOM. I suppose if I took this Jigsaw's like summary tape and watched the ZN with the summary tape, I think it would be really hard for me, but you know, I think after a few years I would probably be able to trade just with that. I think it's a cool feature. If you work hard, your employer will get richer, and I won't gain anything. I could spend that energy on learning a new skill and improving myself. No, I don't think it works like that. Like, so if you're at work, you're going to be you know, you're going to have to do a certain amount of work, right? And that is all time that you're practicing being lazy instead of practicing being excellent, right? So I don't think that you can come in and say, I will just be super lazy at my day job and only do the bare minimum, and then turn around and in the evening, then you're going to work hard. It just doesn't work that way. You got to be excellent all the time, man. Because like I said, like a lot of excellence is like attention to detail. It's saying, here's every tiny little decision that's involved in the thing that I'm doing. And there's going to be millions of decisions that affect the end product that you're making. And excellence is basically saying, I'm going to look at every one of those decisions and I'm going to make sure that I'm making the best decision possible, right? So if you're kind of being lazy in one area and and then putting your effort into another area, sort of a thing, right? Then you're not actually practicing excellence. You're undermining yourself, essentially. Every corner that you cut just makes it that much more difficult to truly be excellent. So what you got to do is you've just got to be excellent all the time. And then when it comes to the things that really matter to you or where you're really going to benefit, you will have a greater ability you will actually have had that practice and that habit of being excellent, and you'll actually be able to do it. Whereas if you're intentionally languishing in a portion of your life, like what you're doing at your actual job, then you're not going to be able to perform at that level. And quite frankly, you know, if you really hate your job and the effort that you're putting into your job, then you need to go into a different job. Like, I don't think that your job needs to be that you have to love your job. Not everybody gets the luxury of being able to have like their hobby or their love be their job. But you should still enjoy and be engaged in what you're doing. And if you're not, then there's like a larger problem. A lot of excellence is habitual, yes. Because every time that you're doing this, right, you're making connections in your brain, right? Every time that you intentionally aren't excellent, that's also a connection in your brain that's permanent. But, you know, at my job and what I do, does that make more money for the company? I suppose, but I enjoy doing what I'm doing, so it doesn't bother me if they're making more money from it than me or something like that. But I think that whole thing is kind of silly. Like, if you're doing things right, you're going into a job that you know, you enjoy doing your job. You're putting yourself into it, and you're doing something that, you know, you're strategic about it. You're doing something that actually provides value and not everybody is doing. Then you should have the ability to negotiate a higher salary and whatnot, and get paid what you're actually worth, right? I think one of the big issues that I see from, again, Gen Z, and I think that millennials did this. I think that Gen Z will probably go through the same transformation that millennials did, which is that when you're in your 20s, a lot of the jobs that you're working, especially while you're still in university and maybe right after university, are all jobs that are kind of like anybody can do them. You don't really have to have a lot of education or skills or experience to be able to do them. And so you have zero negotiation power, right? And what has happened is, as millennials have gotten older, you know, they've built that experience up and they've started to become valuable. And now they kind of realize that it's not quite what they thought before. And I think that over the next 10 years, that's probably one of the biggest shifts that you will see in millennials, is that as the Gen Xers retire and the millennials are then given the leadership positions and things like that, then they're going to look back at it and realize that, yeah, well, I have to actually be providing value and be doing something that the market needs. And then I have negotiating power. Most okay to good to excellent jobs reward employees with stocks. So you working hard to make your company rich is making you rich. There you go. That's true too. That's true too. My life mantra is always do what the other guy is not willing to do. Yeah, that's definitely excellence. I'm the only one from my colleagues who has a computer science degree. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, is that a lot of people in school, they were like, I don't want to know what I want to do with my life, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that they just kind of floated into doing whatever job they got. Versus, you know, I knew that I wanted to work with computers, and I did all the research, and it showed that that was like a really good industry to be in that was projected to grow, and it wasn't luck. I mean, there was strategy to it. I think it's kind of interesting when I look at, because I feel at this point that I've been pretty successful in life. I've certainly been successful in life compared to most of my peers. It's a hard thing. It can kind of like, your brain and society will kind of mess with you, because if you've been successful, you're probably going to live among other people that are successful, and so you're going to compare yourselves to them and go like, oh, I'm not successful at all because these people, they have so much and all this sort of thing, right? But then I go back and I just look at, okay, all of the people from my high school, oh yeah, been more successful than almost all of them, right? So I've had a degree of success in life, and every big thing that I can think of that have really contributed to my success, I can see both strategy and luck involved, right? Like, it was entirely strategic that I bought a house when I did, and that I kind of made a bunch of really big sacrifices, including being house poor for a long time, because my strategy was I need to get into house now before all of the other millennials do, because when that happens, there won't be enough houses. So that was strategic. Now, there was also luck behind it, because I had the money when I needed it, and the COVID thing and you know, housing has been like way better than I ever dreamed that it would be, right? So there was luck involved in it too. Computer science, I think, kind of the same way. Or let's say being a site reliability engineer. Like, there was strategy behind it. I was picking up the skills that were the most useful to the job that I was doing, and that just kind of naturally led us into site reliability engineering. But it was just kind of a coincidence that I ultimately got dragged into that role, and that it ended up being a well-paying role. You know, so there was both strategy and luck to it. And some people only want to see the strategy in what they've done, and some people only want to see the luck in what other people have done. Right? Well, they had a really good pullback here in the treasuries, and I kind of thought that maybe that meant that they were done that they were done on the downside and that they would kind of recover. But now we're right back down there. So I would say usually the way that this plays out is that we'll get a slightly higher high, and, you know, there will be another move, but back up. But let's just kind of watch for a little bit. I'm not seeing anything that suggests to me that there's like a really strong flow that's going to come in and push the other way. So I only want to see the laughs in the works done. You know, I tell you what, my new job, they are way more lighthearted. I mean, I think that at my previous job that people were lighthearted and, you know, were having fun as we were doing it, even when there was a serious issue. You know, people making funny jokes and quips and stuff all the time. But at my new work, they're really have fun doing. Because we'd been dealing with a production issue. We finally fixed it yesterday. Well, we've been in a serious production issue for basically like a week and a half now, and it was fun to do. You know, they made it entertaining. Obviously, it was frustrating and stressful, but it was also fun. If you don't hear at least 10 mother lovers a day, it's a dull job. Well, I don't hear 10 mother lovers a day now. They're pretty good with the language. So I like these are the sorts of things that I wish I'd spend more time talking about. I would really like to spend more time talking about this stuff on TikTok, but every time that I try, like, TikTok ignores me, and I don't get it. Whatever. Screw TikTok. I'm kind of still fed up with them. I'm waiting for the next social network. What comes after TikTok, you think? That's what I want to know. I'm really tempted to take that 525 there. An Indian social network. Well, there's a lot of really cool things that you can do with Discord that we don't take advantage of that are very much in line with the sorts of things that I would like to be more involved with. But in the evening, I don't really have, spend most of my time watching children. Okay, so here's a new tweet from Nick Timmerhouse. Fcast of the month in October 2022, saying that he expected health insurance inflation would be reported as a decline. And it was, in fact, a 37.3% decline year over year. There's actually been a decent amount of activity on Twitter this morning relative to what we've been seeing. There's a new low, maybe. I still think even if they make a new low that they'll probably bounce back up here again, but it's not. Okay, well, look at that. That right there is like a big red flag to me. Huge offer at 08 half, tons of selling into 08 and iceberging. That ends relatively late in the session. We don't have news at the top of the hour, do we? Business inventory is month over month. $7K at 08. So I need to keep in mind that when I see things that I think are suspicious like that, that is not a sign for me to take a position. That is a sign for me to kind of not mess with it. Yeah, they all sold there pretty hard, actually. There was 7K at 08, and now look, we're getting 6K at 07. This is very, very curious. Like this decline, because there was a point where we were like 4 or 5, and I kind of thought, oh, okay, maybe they'll come back now. But no, if I had done the opposite of that, we'd be up $41. Like, that's crazy. Yeah, there's a lot of orders. Now, look, it's not just all one way. They're hitting it the other way, too. So if I start to see really aggressive order flow on the buy, that could be a good location for a reversal. But let's see. I mean, that's a lot of selling. They might not be able to recover that. That kind of action could be something enough to like suppress buyers, right? Well, I don't know if it's a market making dream. I mean, if you took fills at 08, you're probably a little bit unhappy about it, right? Hmm. Nikki Haley takes fire over unconstitutional plan to force all social media users to be verified by name. Yeah. Well, you know what? I think that it would be really great if there was a system that we could verify by name, and some social networks used that and some didn't. So let's see here. Zero Hedge says huge gasoline price drop sparks biggest US PPI plunge since COVID lockdowns. Not seeing a whole lot on Zero Hedge here to run with. Still right there at 07. Now I'm getting big volume traded down there at the bottom in the 5-year too. So like what I'm seeing right now is that like almost all of the delta buying that we saw from the CPI yesterday getting washed out today. And just massive amounts of trade in this 07 area. Okay, I'm gonna take a little gamble here. Interesting, the indices. Yeah, actually it is kind of curious, isn't it? That like you would have thought, well, they did sell pretty hard. I mean, it was like 20 points down. But now since the open, it's just been pretty quiet. Like for a Wednesday, this is really quiet. And yeah, there is business inventories at the top of the hour, but that's not like a super big number. So they're kind of able to get 08 to go bid briefly, but like there's still iceberging at 08 on the offer. So they're able to clear 08 half, then I think that we might be in a good spot. And that's certainly encouraging the bid at 08. So perhaps they've exhausted the seller here now. I also wonder how much of this is just like profit taking from yesterday versus like they really didn't like that number, you know? Okay, well, there was a hit there at 08 and it absorbed it, so that's also a good sign. Obviously not the final say, but supportive of my position. So I'm just kind of noticing, by the way, that this whole downtrend that we've seen in treasuries is very heavily correlated with the Japanese yen falling and the dollar rising. So Although this move in the dollar is mostly just a retracement of what was a really big day in the dollar yesterday. Okay, so they are able to make '08 half go bid briefly. And somebody really hit it aggressively there. Because some went at '09. Maybe a stop. That might have been stops. I don't know. I'd be a little pissed if I had just hit it at 01 half and then it no 08 half went offer again like that. Okay, some more hits at 08. 30-year, so it kind of looks like steepening maybe coming in again because the 30-year is languishing a little bit. Okay, so that was very, very bad. Because basically all of the support that we had just kind of like evaporated very, very quickly. Now, that might mean liquidity hole kind of a thing, like, we might be okay for a little while. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I'm thinking that the explanation for this flow is the dollar retracing and not really some opinion on what interest rates are going to be. And in fact, what I'm seeing here is the 30-year is just really fallen there. Is what happened. That's why I think that the support under the 10-year just kind of seemed like it evaporated. It's because the 30-year is like dragging it down. And the 6J doesn't look particularly happy either. So I think that we've got to... Should have bailed a little bit earlier here. I was kind of hoping for another tick back up and then I was going to scratch it, but it went a little step further, so... Kind of not understanding the spreads here. Feel like I should be down more than I am. Well, there's an attempt to lift it. Okay. That was a pretty good uptick, actually. Doesn't look like it's gonna hold, but it was a pretty good uptick. I mean, it kind of looks to me like the dollar is about to turn back around, but wouldn't tell by the pressure you're seeing in the treasuries. Yeah. And they're just gonna bust through that without me, huh? Shoot. So I was kind of holding out hope there that I would get another tick or two, and it's like it just moved against me again, so I'm pretty unhappy about that. I'd say that the market makers are still holding their bids. But if it's the dollar that's moving them. And by the way, like the dollar is moving down, right? The dollar is moving down, but the treasuries aren't reversing. So what's with that? So it's more complicated than I thought. Because I thought, oh, we're just moving down because the currency correlation is dragging us down. So if the currency correlation backs off, then we should come back up. But then the treasuries keep selling. Right. Well, it's not like it's moving down by too much. The pressure might still be the upside. Yeah, well, and I think the one thing that's kind of preventing me from outright panicking is that the cumulative delta in here is pretty even, and I am still seeing some flow pushing on the upside. You know, like when it ticks up, they look like really solid upticks. They all tick up. There's a strong bid right behind it right away, that sort of a thing. So it's like the sellers are winning, but it's not like that the buyers are just being pathetic here. So what's going on today? Okay, so we had PPI and retail sales, and PPI was much less than expected. We expected spot 3 and we got 0, so that was good, and initially the treasuries bought on that. But then we also got retail sales. We were expecting it to be a negative number, and it was a positive number, and so the market did a really big head fake. They sold. They bought it almost immediately, and it was only for a brief moment, and then they've been selling ever since. And over here in the treasuries, you know, like the selling is starting to get pretty extreme, but we are seeing like really big absorption in these areas. So the market makers are like not getting out of the way, even though, you know, and part of the thing is that like as it moves down, it's kind of like they kind of let it fall, right? So when you're talking about pressure, the market selling is not that strong right now, but what's happening is the bids are not being very strong either. Now, when I see that, I'm immediately thinking currency correlation, but we saw the dollar drop down a little bit, and it still didn't see a change in the flows here in the treasury. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on here now. But I'm in a losing trade that I'm really not happy with, and I'm not quite sure how to get out of. And it's kind of looking like I just have to like really puke it hard and take a bigger loss than I wanted. But I'm just sitting here going like, you know, as soon as I do it, that they're going to reverse, right? Yep, that's how it works. Yeah, but on the split side, you know, is with the trend being down, is that really that great of a trade to be, you know, taking the counter trend trade? Are we really going to get that big of a bounce that is worth, you know, hanging on for dear life like I am? Well, there's an iceberg there at 05.5. Come on. Throw me a bone here. It looks like they're going to have big amounts of trade on both sides here again. I kind of find this action curious for the larger picture though, because, you know, after yesterday, I was kind of thinking they're just going to keep buying this, aren't they? But that is not what's happening. That is not what's happening at all. Seems to me like the sellers, you know, once the sellers got even kind of like an okay opportunity to sell it, they went super hard with it. So what's with that? Perhaps the issues with issuance and all of that are really a lot larger than we realize. Okay, I'm seeing a little bit of a sign of like liquidity hole and exhaustion here. Like a lot traded there, and now they seem to be quieting down again. And the 30-year backed off there like big time, and it was kind of the 30-year that was dragging them down. So seeing this volume reverse in the 30-year, that's a good sign. Yeah, well, at least I might be able to take the loss that I was thinking about taking originally, right? The thing is that it's not a very good... I'd say that it hasn't been the best trade overall. I think that I did have decent stuff to get me in, but it just didn't go very far, right? And my general experience with that has been that, like, if you stick it out with one of those and it comes back to like break even, it doesn't run. It doesn't turn into a good winner for you, you know? Okay, so that again, like uptick, pretty solid uptick. There was a decent amount on the bid. They actually hit into it and it absorbed. There was some orders like stopping out into 06.5, so like that uptick was really strong. But again, like what we had before was that can flip around really easily and they can just tick down on nothing. So can't read too much into it, but there's another uptick. That's good. I'm actually seeing like some pretty solid net buying in the 5 years, suggesting that the 5 years trying to push it up again. It could just be spreads. It could just be that the call is another steepener, and so they were selling it in the 30-year, and that's what dragged us down. I don't know. I wouldn't think so. In ZB, when you see like 1,000 like that, I don't know if that's necessarily a super significant deal. It was definitely when it was like, where was it? It was somewhere around 10 or 12, right? Where we had like some really big trades. No. It was '08. It was '08. There was some pretty big icebergs and stuff like that. And like a really big offer, right? Well, in this case, they did push a little bit lower. But, you know, that also means if ZN gets above '08, I would be like really... You might get the opportunity to see some unwind of this down move. So now all of a sudden, you know, there's all these people that took positions from '08, and now all of a sudden the tides have turned, and these guys are actually profitable on it. Where's he? I don't know. I'm sure he's watching and he just hasn't said anything. Although I would have thought that when we were talking about the Sierra charts thing that he would have chimed in with that one, right? Man, I still, just thinking back, that's just like a really bizarre thing to post on the forum, right? Like, okay, if you don't think that it's worth your time, then just say, oh, we're focusing our efforts elsewhere. But adding all of this stuff about kinetic war and everything is like, what? Why would you say that? Now, he doesn't use Sierra charts, but I think that he would still be interested in talking about it, right? Like, I don't know if it actually is here. Did you hear that whole thing, Akshay? That on the Sierra charts forum, somebody asked about if they'll support the Eurex exchange for the Denali data, and they basically went on a crazy right-wing lunatic rant in the answer. I was like, they posted on Discord, and I was like, what the F is going on over there? I knew they were a little cray-cray, but like that's like way cray-cray. No. Dude, go. You should just watch. Here, let me post the link. Because it really is like, what the heck? Go and read. Yeah, go and read this post in Sierra charts, dude. I'm just really curious, like, what people think about this. Lucas was saying, well, that kind of makes me think twice about wanting to use Sierra charts. And I'm not trying to push people one way or another. I'm kind of more of a like, okay, so how many people actually end up caring about something? That's really an interesting thing to me, you know? They have this disclaimer on their website: we won't answer questions, something along those lines. Yeah. So as a rule, I ignore them. Dude, it's so crazy, it's funny, is the thing. Just go read the thread. Just go read the post. Right? Soon, we're all going to be facing much worse problems: kinetic war, famine, and energy shortages, which are all interrelated. There should not be denial of these facts. These things are coming to us all, and we are not going to be wasting the last days of our lives as we know them. Hopefully we survive, messing around with so much complexity and all the bureaucracy with this type of trading functionality, referring to MIFID. We are at the precipice of a worldwide disaster. Anyone who is in denial of this is hiding from the truth. There is no way what is going on in the world is not going to result in shortages of food and energy and an expansion of the kinetic war. Like, what? All you gotta do is say, yeah, we're not gonna support your ex. Sorry, we don't have the time. Like, that's all you gotta say. You go on this rant about kinetic, like, what? What the heck is going on over there? Well, at least they got it right that MIFID is a complex cesspool. I don't know about all that other stuff. Well, like the wild thing about it is that he's making this really dire prediction of the future and saying like there's no question about it. And I'm like, I kind of think that you're like the only person in the market that thinks that's going to happen. A couple of posts before, another dev said something along the lines of the world is too unpredictable right now. I don't know. Is it just like one engineer over there that's like this? I don't get it. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's that all of the developers have the ability to post on that account, and there's like 6 of them or whatever, and this one really doesn't want to do it, and so he's posting that so that people will stop pushing it because he just doesn't want to do it. Which him posting that might have the opposite effect intended, right? It might just make people even more interested in getting Eurex data. Like, that's how those things tend to go. Okay, we're getting a little bit of iceberging at 07. And it looks like they're able to take that one. I bet 2 cents that the one guy who posted that is the only one in that whole company who understands MIFID. Is that how do the people in Europe refer to it? MIFID? MIFID? Even though the push of GJ and all the other pairs, do you expect a correlation also? Or next days? I do not understand your question. I think maybe you meant 6J. So, it seems that the dollar is like really dominant right now. So, we refer to it as POS. Is it really that bad? Because I'm just sitting here like, I mean, Rhythmic did it. They don't have a problem. Why can't you do it? I kind of feel like that if you're going to go into the we're going to be a one-stop shop, we're going to do the data and everything, that you should be supporting all of the things that the other data platforms do. I just don't. But that's what, so answer me this. What would be some of the things that would be required of them to support the Eurex exchange that MIFID makes so complicated? You know, is there like some disclosure that they'd have to make? Something, you know, there's something about it that they probably don't want to do. Okay, it looks like they lost 07.5. I'm still seeing actually a decent amount of volume come through, and actually a decent amount of volume come through long. So the 5-year kind of gave up some of its gains in cumulative delta, but it's actually still kind of pushing to the upside as well. And oh, look, another big offer. Another iceberg on the offer at 07.5. We saw an iceberg at 07. We saw an iceberg at 08. We're seeing it at 07.5 now. I think those have all been on the offer too, by the way, and the buyers have bought through them. No, he wants to ask you super secret things that could give him edge and that he doesn't want everybody else to know. Here's a question. What if you did a Top Step Trader account and you got the largest account, okay, So like you have like the $300,000 account or whatever it is, right? And then you traded euro dollar futures with it. Or sorry, not your SOFR futures with it. Get the biggest account, trade SOFR futures with it, and get funded. You think that we could work out a strategy that would let us do that, actually? Okay, each country has the authority to supersede it in their own borders within the EU. So instead of being accountable to one party, you're accountable to 30. Oh, jeez. So like what? They can say, hey, we need to look at all of your finances to make sure that you're not doing something shady? Like what? Denali feed is superior to Rhythmic? Well, okay. But they do support Eurex exchange. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying that the oncoming kinetic war didn't stop Rhythmic from supporting Eurex. That's. Oh yes, he did. He worked for a bank for a long time. Well, I'm going to guess, because Lucas, when I asked him that question, here's what he told me, was he told me to read Stegum. So that's why I've got Stegum. Where is that? Money Market and Bond Calculations by Stegum and Robinson. Stegum is actually a woman, so she's like an amazing story of a woman kind of breaking into the bond market and becoming an expert. So that's really cool. And there's a bigger book. This one is just the math stuff, but there's a bigger book that's kind of like a textbook that would be like if you were going to take a class in college about bonds and the bond market, they would give you that book. Or if you were going to start working at a firm, they might give you that book. There's like 2 of them, and actually recommended Stegum, so that's where I got that from. And then you would probably know a lot more about the sorts of things that he's talking about. And read every notice, update, circular, etc. that exchanges and regulators put out. So yeah, I was wondering yesterday how you do that. Like, if there was a place where there was like an RSS feed that I could just read every day that had all of them, then I would do that. But it sounds to me like there's like 20 websites that I would have to visit every day to know if they had posted anything. You know? Like, this is where I always come back to, like, seems to me like there's some data and news sources that should exist there for people that are specifically trading the bond market, and maybe they're out there and I just don't have them, you know? Yes, he specialized in the euro dollar market. And then he turned around and took a big wad of cash and just did basis trade with euro dollars. Make the risk-free rate. So they're not quite getting away from '08 yet, but I mean they've been kind of around here for a while, so I still have some hope that they will. Oh, we're getting about to get the oil numbers now. Oh, I made a fat check during the taper tantrum and less. You know, a lot. So, the taper tantrum. Oh, for some reason I thought you said the Brexit. No, we were around. So you were around here with Brexit, weren't you? Because it seems to me that a lot of the bigger, well-known traders around, like Axia, for instance, made big money during the whole Brexit thing. What's this, Octavius? In the money, put buying with 2 days to expire. Really? Which strike? He probably posted in Discord, huh? Let's see here. So on Discord, I said, I wonder if there is more selling today than there normally would be just from the profit taking after yesterday's rise. And Alligator says, yes, it could be slow, but the fact that we're below yesterday's spike is a big incentive for technical traders, in my opinion, mostly driven by equities plus energy. So you can kind of see this thing that I was talking about earlier where it's like, yeah, it comes back and you're at break even, and then for some reason they can't get past break even. Yeah, we talk on Discord. I mean, not through the voice chat, but that was just in one of the chat. That was in the interest rates channel. It was at 88. That is kind of weird. So why would you buy them in the money with 2 days to expire? That seems a little odd to me. I'm trying to think of what kind of a hedge that might be about. This is kind of, so this is just exactly like what it was before, right? Like we had really positive ticks, really good volume. There was iceberging up in here, so that is a little concerning, right? And then the bids just evaporate. And not in correlation with anything that I'm seeing in the currencies either, by the way. No overnight risk and margin to deal with, maybe. It just kind of seems like a really weird bet, doesn't it? There's not anything going on the Friday, right? Like, that's what I'm saying is that I would expect to see the people that had made money in the TLT to be taking profits, not to be adding. I mean, we get unemployment claims and then building permits on Friday. I just don't see where you're going to get something to make up for the time decay that you might be losing. Sell MBOs came in at that time. I'm just, yeah, so here over here in the treasury, again, it's like, I'm not seeing a lot of cumulative delta short. The bids just kind of are pulling out of the way. And I'm not seeing a strong correlation with that with any other market. I am seeing oil take off here now after the oil inventories that we just got, with the actual being a build of 3.6 on the forecast of 2.5. I don't know what that's about. So, Octavius, are you saying that when we had that strong little move down here in the treasuries, that was when some of that put buying came in? Kind of seems like they correlated. Yes. I find it kind of interesting because we typically don't pay too much attention to the flow in TLT, right? But at least right now, it seems like there's enough option activity over there that it is having, you know, an impact that I maybe want to go and find the tools to see the flows over there a little bit better. Okay, so that's interesting. There's a pretty strong take there at 06 half and this offer kind of followed it down. That's pretty big. It looks like they're gonna buy him out though. Strong uptick. A lot has traded in this area, right? Yes, I need a Renaissance capital algo. Yeah. Like, there's been a lot of trade through here, and I'm starting to see both upticks and downticks, although I would say it's a little bit more favorable to the upticks that are a little aggressive. You know, like, they'll stack something and you see a lot of orders hit up into it at the 07, for instance. Right? Like the bid is firming up very, very quickly when it goes. And there's been some downticks that have been like that as well. You know, like normally you'll uptick and like maybe they'll be 700 to 900, and then if they don't get hit into, then that can kind of build up and it'll go to like 1400, 2000. Then once you get over 2000, it's like, yeah, that's a pretty solid bid, and that will probably hold for a little bit, right? But you're getting it ticks up. They stack the 2000 on there almost immediately every tick. And while we did see some big offers on there, that's not how much traded to take it bid there, right? It was 1400 to take it bid instead of the 3000 that they were putting on. So we're kind of getting a little bit of market making shenanigans here. And then there's just like Iceberg City all over the place. So this can be tough trading. Now, I would still kind of point to 08 half that, like, if they can get that above that and hold it, you've got so much volume down in here that could probably give you a good boost back up. But I don't know if they'll actually make it. If it's like a total sell day, then that's going to be as far as they get. I missed the ZB evens bounce. Well, I'm kind of starting to see ZB sell again, so I suspect that again we're getting a steepener spread trade come in, and every time that they sell the ZB, it kind of drags everything down, and then they turn around and they buy the 5-year, and it's like, oh, okay. That jump in oil is moderating a bit now. Oh, no, dude did see a pretty big drop in gold off of the news. I didn't catch that. So what's the biggest loser today? Yeah, UB. Huh. Big offer at 07 half. So I'm seeing the, well, now he pulled it. You're out. Hey, thanks for stopping by, actually. I hope that if we get above 08 half, I'm golden, but I don't know. Usually when I say something like that, it ends up being not so simple, right? Like at the beginning of the stream, nah, it's simple. We buy it. You just buy it with everybody else, and then obviously today, not so simple. Not as simple as just buy all the things, apparently. S&P 500 is looking okay. So do you think that you could see the same thing in the S&P 500, that they could break out here, or is it going to like just stay range bound, like that they won't be able to really get above 45.35, or let's say 45.40? Okay, now we're back to the '08, so that's encouraging, and the big offer that was there at '07.5 disappeared, didn't trade and disappeared. So got a little bit of trickery going on in here, methinks. We need to see that 30-year kind of come along as well, though. Yeah, Lucas, I think you're kind of right. Like, at this point, it's a little bit of a gamble, for sure. I think that what I'm doing here is just hoping to scratch it at a good spot, because I don't know if it's going to get reasonably above '08, but I kind of think with all of these icebergs and everything, they were going to trade in this range. So like I was saying, there's a little bit of strategy to it. There's a little bit of luck. But overall, I'd rate this trade a C, right? Like, even if this goes and like it comes up and I make like 10-20 bucks off of it, I'm still gonna rate it a C, right? Because we've sat in it for a long time. It's been, well, actually, yeah, okay, it's only been 45 minutes, but still. Well, there was a bid iceberg at 07.5, but they cleared that. I think part of the issue here is my positioning, because basically I looks like I bought the top of the range, right? Like, '08 is right where I'm trying to see it go through, but that's like where I get break even. And really, I should be like, once we get to '08, if it doesn't go through, I can just take the profit and I still make a little bit. So the position is just not very good. You can also say, I really think, though, that we're kind of like in market making shenanigans, because look at the action over here. Like, look at it from a quote unquote price action perspective. Okay. Higher low, lower high. Right? Cumulative delta flat through here. Even though there has been some relatively large trades, though. But I think that we're languishing still, because you can see this selling over here on the far left in the ZB. Of course, we've only moved down one tick since I was like, oh, maybe they're going to go. Maybe they're going to hold it. No. They came one tick down. Does that ruin the whole trade? I don't know. At this point, I just feel kind of stupid. I don't know what else to say. You know, like, hey, maybe it works out, but, you know, maybe the market maker's messing with me, and I really shouldn't be getting in a spot where a market maker can mess with me like that, you know? You were long 08 half before it just got here pre-anemic, but I'm guessing that you gave up on it. I maybe they eventually break it. It might be one of those things where, like, you know, as the European session comes in or something like that, then it unwinds. Because that's often what happens, is they stick it out as long as possible, and then when I'm gone, then it unwinds, right? And I don't think that that's necessarily like somebody's watching me and trying to screw me over. I think that has more to do with the timing of it as it relates to the London close. Why are you comfortable to trade live without hearts? Because it's micros. only because it's micros. To be honest with you, I just don't want people to know where the stop is. So yeah. I'm ultra paranoid about my potential impact on the market, because even though I'm just doing one contract, there's even just 16 of you viewing that, there can be enough money in that to kind of, you know, cause some issues in certain kind of market like this one. Well, maybe not like this one, because there is a little bit too much volume in iceberging, so we're probably a smaller portion of the market than usual. But you know, I just don't want people to know where the stop loss is, and so there. I don't know about that, but I have there's definitely spots where, you know, I get uncomfortable enough that I'm gonna get out. I've never, I don't know why, but I've never had like one of these limit moves against me where like I really got screwed in the micros and everything. Okay, so that's interesting. They just took 08 bid again, and it was 2,500 contracts to lift it, but they just traded it so quickly. So, and I am starting to see cumulative delta go long again. So maybe they're gonna, maybe they've finally done it. I mean, that's a pretty good bid at 08. Of course, they did touch 09 before. Okay, so. Well, yeah, but I'm worried that somebody will see it sitting here on the screen and go, oh, okay, so if we're able to push the market over to here, then Seth will automatically stop out of his position. And I don't want anybody to have that kind of information. So I use a mental stop. And I can only do that because it's micro treasuries, which means that you know, it doesn't move that quick anyways, so the chances of having a limit move against me are a lot less. And even if I did have a limit move against me, probably the worst that would happen is I lose like $20. Dude, yesterday's move was, yeah. I just sat and watched it. I was a little bit surprised at how it was able to just plow through, you know, because it almost immediately, like as soon as I had things recentered, they were at 4 or 5 even, and then they went like 60 ticks lower than that. Yeah, it was a monster move yesterday for sure. But honestly, I don't know if the trade was that great if you weren't like in before the news or anything. It's kind of one of those ones that are too big for us to really take advantage of, right? The volatility is just too much in those situations. I'll leave those days to bigger traders than I. I'm pretty nonchalant about trading back and forth at 08 half now. You know, if they do break, and I don't know if it's going to happen before we have to go here, but if they do kind of break back out and retrace a good portion of this, and I think that you know, a good target would probably be somewhere in this 12 area. But if that happens, I don't think I've ever seen a situation where all of the little tea leaves and everything that I was seeing suggested that the buyers were eventually going to dig it out, but that it took so long for it to play out. So that's kind of curious, because normally what should happen is I'm seeing those little tea leaves and then like it flips around on me at some point because the trade just sputters out. But they've been persistent with it. Okay, so there's a new swing high at 08, 09 half. So now I can relax a little bit on the position. I thought about putting on a trade before the CPI release. Well, so did you think that it was going to be lower than anticipated? Because honestly, that wasn't. I guess it's because my bias is always like, which thing would be like the crazier move, right? But I thought that there was a risk of us being a little bit higher than anticipated, and the market throwing an absolute fit, right? The scenario where it was spot 2 was just like not even on my radar, man. And part of that was because I thought if we got spot 2 that we would get like a good rally, not like this crazy rally that we got, right? Because it really was like, it was a crazy rally. It was like that the people that were buying it were like, the interest rate cycle is officially over, and we can just buy all of the things for the next 10 years. Like, that's the way that they were trading yesterday. Now, today is throwing a little bit of cold water on that. But I do still think going into especially when it comes to the S&P 500, that the trade is probably buy all the things and let Jerome Powell deal with it later, you know? Yep, they're like, look, Seth, we busted that high for you. Now you need to scratch it. I'm still seeing it buy, though. I don't know. I expect I even got up for the European Open thinking I might front run it. Well, that was a super dangerous trade, though, right? Like, CPIs and non-farms have become so wild this year that I just don't even trade them live. I just kind of sit on the sidelines and see how it shakes out. And then try and trade the aftermath like we are today. But that's not working so well, is it? Yeah. I don't know. Whenever I mess with those, though, I don't catch the massive return. I'm just not lucky with those ones for whatever reason. I think it comes down to like the amount of risk that you're willing to hold, because you could have gone short 4-5 yesterday, right? Like, I definitely had the opportunity to go short 4-5, but it went as high as 4-5-3. So you were looking at possibly 30 ticks of heat at one point, right? So I'm holding my risks so tight that it's just doesn't really make sense to really try and trade those. If I was more swing trading, then it would maybe be a different thing. It's the 60 wit. Yes, it did. Well, you see this dollar though, man. Like, okay, so we saw a pretty big rise in the dollar after the news. The dollar has reversed about half of that now, but and the Japanese yen is going up, but the treasuries continue to be a little bit sluggish. They kind of not going for whatever reason. So is it because they're just going to catch up later, or is it because there's still some really big sellers out there that, for whatever reason, don't care about the CPI yesterday? Or is it just profit taking? It could just be profit taking too. That's the other issue. I guess we'll be able to say tomorrow, though. We'll see where it goes. So I guess we have 5 minutes left here. You keep an eye on it. May scratch it here. Well, at the moment, I'm kind of, is the way I'm looking at this is like, this is just not a good time to try and get out of the position because there's not a whole lot of trade coming through. But like I said, maybe closer the European close gets, maybe we see another different move. And is that more different move buying the euro? Maybe. But I think I'm going to what can we say about today's thumbnail? I'm tempted to make it about Sierra charts, but I think that I will resist the temptation on that one. I'm just going to say retail sales surprise, the most boring, dumb title I can come up with. Okay. I'm going to scratch this. I'm still going to be waiting for Phil. So, or I don't have an order sitting out there, but I'm going to wait for it to be at one of my spots and hit it. So I will see you guys tomorrow. In the meantime, stay excellent, team.